Also, Global Info Analytics projects a paltry 17% for MPP presidential aspirant Kennedy Japan in January's flag bearer contest. We get into the meat of the latest poll for you.
We'll also put the spotlight on the Public Accounts Committee, where the committee raised eyebrows over a 72% increase in rent payment for the Youth Employment Agency. You're welcome to another edition of News Central. I'm Kemini Amano.
And I am Mawina Egbeta. The bulletin starts right now. We are your election command center, and this afternoon the National Democratic Congress has officially opened nominations for the Tamale Central by-election parliamentary primary. Some prospective aspirants in the constituency have begun picking nomination forms to contest the September sit primary. Let's cross over right now to my colleague Christopher Mwaku, who's been monitoring the situation and the development there, because we understand 4 individuals in the space of an hour have picked up forms. Christopher, talk to us about the process and how it's been going thus far.
So, Mawina, I must say that the process has been smooth. As we speak, 4 aspirants have already picked their nomination forms to contest in the parliamentary primaries in the Tamale Central constituency. In fact, they consist of 3 males and a female. Some of them actually did not come themselves to pick the form. They sent their aides and other supporters to come and pick the nominations forms for them. But I can confirm that so far, 4 individuals have successfully picked their nomination forms to contest in the September 6th parliamentary primaries for the NDC. And
do we know who they are? These four who've picked up the forms, do we know who they are?
Yes, so we have Dr. Mohammed Seydou Peter, a lecturer at the University for Development Studies. We also have a former mayor of Tamale, that is Honorable Kundado. That is how he's known here in the Tamale enclave. We also have an executive, a former mayor of Tamale, that is Honorable Kundado. That is how he's Tamale enclave. Of the former secretary of the NDC in the northern region, lawyer Ralph, has also successfully picked his nomination, and the female is one, Honorable Monica, who also sent someone to come and pick the nomination forms on her behalf. So that is the 4 so far who have successfully picked their nominations. We understand that more are yet to come, because the list that have shown interest, more of them are yet to come and pick their nomination forms.
Just quickly, Christopher, we understand that 4 picked, but there are some who are raising concerns. What are these concerns that they've been speaking to you about?
Yes, so when initially there were these allegations that the NDC as a party is going to settle on someone to come and contest the elections without going through the process. But when the forms came out, some executives allegedly are roaming in town, meeting delegates with one of the aspirants. And so the other aspirants are raising concerns that they want the process to be free and fair, because the election directorate has indicated that they should be cautious of their utterances during the campaigns that they go about. And so they are also saying that the election directorate and the executives to ensure that the elections are free and fair. Let's take a listen to what one of them has been saying.
before I raised that, they called on us to be measured in our campaign, and maybe they have seen one or two concerns. That is why they are calling for us to be measured in our campaign. So, and that is why I also brought that up. Currently, as we speak, we have some constituency executives moving around with an aspirant name, trying to push a certain agenda that is not true. So all we seek is a free and fair elections. I think we've ever been here. My candidate contested with Honorable Ibrahim Mutala, the late Ibrahim Mutala, in the last parliamentary primary. I think that was 2018-2019. Yes, and he became victorious. We moved ahead, we supported him, then he won. And in the last elections, he went unopposed. We felt 4 years was not enough for him to deliver. But God has his way of doing things. So this time around, I think maybe this, another form.
Right then, Christopher, just briefly on the expectation going forward, are we expecting a lot more persons to be picking forms?
Yes, Marina, exactly. We are expecting a lot of people to pick the forms. So far, with the list we have, about 16 people have expressed interest, in fact, confirmed their interest in contesting the NDC primary in the Tamale Central constituency. Within a space of 1 hour, 4 people have come to pick nominations. So we are anticipating that by close of the day, more people will come and pick nominations to contest the parliamentary primaries. But on the subject of the allegations, the executives and the election directorate have also been responding to these allegations. Let's take a listen to what they've also been saying.
Nominations. Only 3 people so far have picked forms, and none of the people who picked the forms have come with any concern that wets our response. But as for people in town, if you have to respond to them, then every minute you have something to say. The guidelines are embedded in the forms. Once you take them, it tells you what you are supposed to do. You complete the processes, bring it within the 4-day window, and file. Because this is a by-election, so the time space is limited. There's limited time to conduct these elections. So everybody, even if 100 people express interest, we will make available 100 forms for all of them. They will go through a vetting process, and then the elections will take place.
And Christopher, thank you very much for speaking to us. We'll just stay on politics a while longer because we know that political research firm Global Info Analytics says the NPP flag bearership race or the former vice president could win the next primary with some 52% and his closest rival Kennedy Japan just garnering some 17% of expected votes. They are also, amongst many other things, based on polling, predicting that the current General Secretary, Justin Frimpong Courier, will retain his role as the General Secretary of the NPP, while John Boadu is urging Chairman Wontumi in that race for the chairmanship position of the party. And we just want to show you quickly, by way of what it is that we know, some of the details that have been captured on our dashboard for you quickly. Then we connect with Musa Dankwa, who's the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. And so here's what the General Secretary race looks like. We see Justin Frimpong Courier here, leading by a country mile. His closest contender will be Henry Kokofu, who is still quite far off. Per polling data, we are seeing 44% for him, and the others yet to even scratch 7%. But there's an interesting aspect of this poll that we're yet to see. There's a 36 percentage point of individuals who are yet to decide who they are going to vote for. It's quite significant, but with the lead Mr. Frimpong Courier has, I mean, it will be quite interesting whether or not he cannot win that race based on what we're seeing from the latest poll by Global Info Analytics. This is the chairmanship race, and there it's a bit tighter. We see the undecided there as well, quite huge. 34% of respondents say they're not quite clear in their minds just as yet who they want to be voting for. But we see John Boyd, who is the former general secretary of the party, leading the way in terms of the respondents who've been speaking to Global Info Analytics. And then Bernard Nchibo-Esiako, known popularly as Chairman Wontumi, following by 23%, and then the rest follow in that order. Again, there's a huge number who say they've not decided just as yet as to who they are voting for. On the presidential, that's where things are a bit different, where we see Dr. Bawumia leading with some 52%, and then Kennedy Ejapong following with 17%. Let's take all of this to the man behind all of these data points. We're speaking to Musa Dankwa. He's joined us right now for a bit more on what it is that we're seeing. And so, Mr. Dankwa, based on what we're seeing, not in the slightest of chance that Kennedy Ejapong could rally his way through and win this come January.
Thank you very much for having me. I wouldn't say that. This is early days. You have him on 17%, with Bawumia on 52%. But about 9% of people say they won't tell us who they will vote for, even though they know who they are voting for. Historically, we have come to know these guys to be Ken voters. So we suspect that these guys will add to Ken's column. Then you have the 18% who are undecided. And as the campaign moves into full gear, you will see some movement along the line. But Bawumia has the lead that he needs. It's up to him to win convincingly. And there is more work to be done among those who are undecided.
Even with the undecided and the campaigns yet to start, where there will be swings, you've monitored polling data for quite a while. Is this trend expected to change, or we're going to see the gap widen?
Look, this is the first poll we've conducted. We haven't got any trend to fall back to see where the trend line looks like. So I'll be very cautious in the way we expect the numbers to move. But I think the next poll will give us the best insight as to how the poll would unfold in the end. For now, I'll be very cautious. Just that Bawumia is leading significantly, but he's not out of the woods yet, because he needs to win convincingly, and that is yet to be seen.
For the others, we're seeing quite a number of individuals, and if we can just look at that data closely, we see Brian Echampong, we see the Honorable Yaosei Duchum, we see Kwabena Ejapong, who, quite interestingly, from the polling data we're seeing 0%, we're seeing Boachie Ejako, as well as the Honorable Adai Nimo, all in that race. What are you seeing happening to them? This is a straight-up dogfight between Dr. Bawumia and Kennedy Ejapong, and perhaps some of them are just what some like to say, testing the waters with respect to a future run.
Look, the expectation was that Brian Echampong and Educhum will pose the challenge to the two main contenders. At the moment, we haven't seen that in the numbers yet. But if you take a deeper dive into the data and look at Ashanti region, Greater Accra, Eastern region, you can see a huge chunk of people who are undecided. Now, if these guys decide to break away in the way of these newcomers, then we could see a different race taking a shape. At the moment, we can't tell. They have to really get their socks off and see what they can do to move the numbers for those who are saying they are undecided or they won't tell us.
Mr. Dankwa, let's end with the General Secretary race. After that defeat in December, there was a huge clarion call that leadership ought to go and whatnot. But in the General Secretary race, we're seeing a completely different result based on what the party supporters are telling you. What is really happening on that front?
Look, we have seen stark differences between the party supporters and delegates. the views of party supporters are completely, in most cases, different from those of the delegates. In fact, if you take a look at the question we asked the delegates, whether they share the view that there should be a wholesale changes in the party structure at the top, nearly 48% said no, there shouldn't be overhaul of the party at the top. Only 30% said yes, they agree, and another 22% were neutral. So you can see that among the delegates, the mood is not there for wholesale changes. That is why Courier is probably leading.
Right, we'll leave it here. Mr. Dankwa, I'm sure there'll be a bit more in terms of analysis for us on matters in relation to politics, the NPP. That flag bearership race is expected in January of next year. We'll follow through and bring details to you if you stay with us here on TV3. But on the other races, they are expected to come a lot later as well. In terms of the reorganization of the party ahead of the December elections. But that's Musa Dankwa. He is the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics speaking to us this afternoon. So we've been walking you through what the data point looks like, and this is what the presidential looks like again, just by way of emphasis. We're seeing Dr. Bawumia leading the way with 52%, Kennedy Ejapong with 17%, Dr. Brian Echampong 3%, the Honorable Yaosei Duchum 1%, then the remainder 0%, 0%, 0%, and there is undecided stuck at 18%, and then those who say they will not disclose now as well being 9% on that front. And so that's what we're seeing in terms of the data points by Global Info Analytics, but we can't bring you some more stories right now.
Now, the national organizer of the NDC, Joseph Yamin, has raised concerns over the activities of multiple task forces operating under the pretext of combating illegal mining, claiming some of their actions have led to harassment and extortion. Addressing residents at Bontiso in the Amansea West district of the Ashanti region, Yamin said the situation had worsened in recent months.
His comments followed recent clash at Manso Bonteso by residents and Inspector General of Police Special Anti-galamsey Task Force. The incident happened after the task force seized a packed excavator. Yamin believes the operations is unregulated, uncoordinated, and opened the door for some imposters.
Task force is can never be said as fighting illegal mining, but rather extorting monies and creating problems.
He appealed to the President, John Dramani Mahama, and the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tatayono, to withdraw all the police anti-task force from the mining communities. Meanwhile, the Ashanti chapter of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, Frank Osei, said the association supports the government effort to clamp down on illegal mining, particularly within protected areas such as forest reserves and river bodies.
And the common for press be out to form. No more prefie. They are making you come on. They are
the current approach has become chaotic.
Now, the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament has raised eyebrows over a 72% increase in rent payment of the Youth Employment Agency from 3.2 million cedis to 5.5 million cedis between the year 2023 and 2024. Now, management of the YEA states that the rent payment started when the facility it currently occupies was handed over to KA developers as private managers by the Ministry of Works and Housing in 2023. Now, appearing before the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, the leadership questioned management of the YEA over a silence on the surge in rent payment. Here are excerpts of proceedings.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The YEA has occupied our current facility since 2010. And initially, per my understanding, it was a government facility fully owned and managed by the Ministry of Works and Housing. And so the YEA in past times had not paid any amount in the form of rent to the Ministry of Works and Housing. Somewhere in 2023, the facility was handed over to the facility, a private manager, that's K&A management, facility management group. And the YEA sat and went into talks with them because the plan was now for the YEA to pay rent to the facility manager who manages the facility, and then you have the facility manager also pay an amount to the Works and Housing. Honorable Chair, let it be noted that in past it wasn't free, but because it was government to government, most often you find government agencies defaulting and paying their rents to other government agencies. So in the wisdom of the Ministry of Works and Housing, they thought that handing it over to a private manager will ensure that government agencies pay, because once you don't pay, then it means you are packing out of their facility. And so in 2023, the rent was paid. In 2024, the facility manager decided to upgrade a lot of amenities within the facility, and so it led to the astronomical rise of in rent payment. But in 2024, after 2024, after the audit review, we agreed with the recommendations made that the YEA should take steps in finding a permanent facility so we avoid the payment of rent. And so my minister and I had engaged, like he said, with the chief of staff to try and get us accommodation, a permanent place where we'll do away with rent payment. And I think that is in our interest, because if we have to spend about 4 million cedis paying rent, when we could have used that amount of money to 5 point something, when we could have used that amount of money in creating jobs for the young people out there, it goes a long way to support our cause. And so we are in talks to ensuring that we get a permanent place and we finally do away with rent payment. And so hopefully, Honorable Chair, by next year, I'm sure that plans would begin in getting us a permanent facility to operate from. Thank you.
Honorable CEO, you came with some officials from your outfit. Who was there when this thing was done?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My Director of Finance was there.
So let him speak to it.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Since you were in there, let them speak to it.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think my internal auditor was part of the team who engaged with the facility manager. Unfortunately, he's here, so I would want him to give insight into that.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
It's a building for government.
Yes, the building is for Works and Housing. Yes, so in 2022, we were summoned to the ministry, and then we were asked to contact K&A, which is a private company, to manage the facility, because the facility is in somehow a bad shape. So after the discussion in 2023, then they brought a bill. So the bill is that if we are not able to pay, then we have to pack out and look for our own facility. So we were compelled to go by that, since we're not having any facility at that moment. So, Mr. Chair, that is why we are still there, and we are paying the rent.
Internal auditor. Sir, so before 2022, what was the arrangement? Who gave you that facility? Is it from the presidency? Is it from your ministry? Because Works and Housing is a government agency. If Works and Housing, and their mandate is to provide such facilities to government agencies. Now, I won't fault them in engaging a third party.
Let's get more from the accidents today. Our correspondent Christian Yale is there for us. Christian, talk to us. We understand you engaged the YEO CEO after this. What did he say?
Yes, and so according to Malik Basintali, the CEO for the YEA, the agency has been able to undertake some validation, out of which it has been able to pay some 2-month arrears for various beneficiaries serving under different modules that fall under the Youth Employment Agency. He goes ahead to even answer questions about whether or not the YEA is considering a potential renewal of the Zoom Lion contract and what happens to even the fate of beneficiaries who were serving under the sanitation module before this contract was terminated. But he mentions that it is a decision that Cabinet must take. We can take a listen to what he has been telling the media.
What people do not understand are the different contracts that are awarded. It lies in the scope of contract. The YEA scope of contract is different from that of the assemblies. So whatever monies are given to the assemblies are to focus on a different scope of work. What we get is to focus on the main road and 0.5 meters beside the main road. And so our part of the sanitation model is still at cabinet level. And at the last release of the presidency, you realize that His Excellency the President, in his good wisdom, stated that he had put together a team to set the new modalities and ensure that the tenders are done at the district and regional levels for transparency's sake. When I took over office, you remember that I had to swear by my late father's grave that we're not going to sign any contract that will pay them 258 cedis. I said so because 258 cedis was unreasonable, and in this modern era, paying someone 256, in fact, dashing someone 258 cedis even means you've done nothing. Not to talk of paying someone 258 cedis as salary. If you dash someone 258 cedis today, you only say thank you because it's free money, but not because you'll be able to do a lot for him. And I said I was not going to pay them, and I still stand by that. And so, in any future contract we're going to go into, I would not pay any beneficiary less than the minimum wage.
Malik Basintali is CEO of the Youth Employment Agency. Chris, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for bringing us the latest from the accidents today. Now, away from that, in the next few days, the Minister for Communications, Sam George, will meet the leadership of Postal and Courier Services Regulatory Body to discuss awareness creation of the need for courier riders to be licensed. The minister yesterday pulled the brakes on attempts to impound the working tools of delivery riders for failing to regularize their operations. Sam Nate George, in a Twitter post, said, I have directed this afternoon an immediate halt to the ongoing enforcement action by the Postal and Courier Services Regulatory Commission. The action, in conjunction with the Ghana Police Service, is a necessary activity to bring some sanity and order to the use of motorbikes for delivery purposes as stipulated by the law. He goes on to say in that post on X that I believe the Commission needs to do more stakeholder engagements and public sensitization before enforcement. We must enforce the law with a humane face to it. The Communications Minister, Sam George, who has been speaking to the matter. Remember that yesterday, a lot of the motorbikes were impounded. The dispatch riders were unable to deliver the items. We brought you that story here. I want us to take a listen to before we speak to the Public Relations Officer of the Postal and Courier Service Regulatory Commission, I want us to take a listen to some of the complaints by the Okada riders when they were arrested yesterday.
I was just passing by when I've been stopped that I should bring my key. I don't even know why they said I should bring my key. So I gave the key to them. Later they said we should produce the license for the courier. Meanwhile, some of us don't have any idea about this. So I think if there should be somebody they should hold responsible, I think it's the courier company because they did not educate us.
I've never heard it before, and I didn't also ask. To be fair and to be honest,
if something like this go happen, at least they for announce give us they forgive us date or earlier on, or give us some months, say, oh, ABR, till like this, if you don't get the license the way that they talk about now, at least this is what will happen. But all of a sudden, you go come off for house, one struggle for what you go chop, you go come now, then see, they catch you.
They should have a day that if you didn't come for the licenses, you have to face punishment. After that, then we can start seizing bicycles.
Well, some of the dispatch riders from yesterday. Let's connect now with PR of the Commission, Edwin Bergerson. Edwin, I appreciate your time with us this afternoon. Now, the Communications Minister, Sam George, has said, put a stop to what you're doing for further engagements. How does this come to you? Well, my understanding is we've lost Edwin over the telephone. But when we do get him, we'll bring back that story. It's important to note that the Minister for Communications, Sam George, has said he will meet with the leadership of the Postal and Courier Services Regulatory Commission to deal with this matter. Let's try Edwin again. Edwin, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. How does the Minister's latest comments on this come to you?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Yes, I must thank you for having the commission. The minister's statement, like you rightly said, and listening to what some of the courier service providers stated, the commission accepts the fact that whilst we've had a lot on our plate in enforcing compliance, we believe strongly and agree with what the minister said that a lot more has to be done in terms of educating the public in general, and then particularly the service providers, to ensure that the standards in the industry are actually brought to a very high level, and then people who are in there know exactly what's expected of them, and then they comply.
But why did the Commission not think this through before implementing? You're embarking on something positive for the nation, but it would appear that the thought process did not get to this point.
I would not entirely agree with that, because some exercise has been done in terms of educating the general public. You recall in the Honourable Minister's last press brief, he made reference to this very exercise, and he actually indicated that the Commission was going to work in collaboration with the Ghana Police Service to ensure that those who do not have license are brought to the law. And he actually stated in that press brief that he was encouraging all those who do not have license to go ahead and do the needful, because the police will intercept their activities and clamp down their services. I'm sure that the reaction of those whom we were not after, I must state this, those whom we were not after Okada boys. No, we were after delivery service providers. There are some Okada people who offer delivery service. So if they find themselves in that class, that is how come they weren't affected. Many were let go when they established the fact that they were Okada riders.
I see. So if this was thought through, you had stakeholder engagement, what are you going to be doing now?
So the Honourable Minister has asked that we halt the exercise for now. We have complied with that directive, and we'll be engaging with the Honourable Minister, and other stakeholders will also be brought into that meeting. And we're actually going to find a better way, like he said in the statement, to bring this out. But the Commission would like to add, and that this notwithstanding, what the Honourable Minister has said notwithstanding, the law still mandates everybody, anyone at all who offers delivery service in the country, be that person an entity registered at law or an individual who has a vehicle and is using that to do delivery service, the law mandates that person or requires that person to get a license from the Postal and Courier Services Regulatory Commission, so as to bring whatever they are doing to the fore and bring it under regulation.
I see. And, you know, for a lot of the people you arrested yesterday, you have rightly said that some of them turned out to be Okada riders. Now, how will your license differentiate regular Okada drivers from dispatch riders? It's the same motorbike.
Yes, like I said, we're not after Okada riders. No, we're not after Okada riders. We're after people using their motorbikes for delivery service.
I understand, but it's the same. You see, when you are doing a delivery, Your motorbike is not different from somebody riding Okada, regular Okada.
That is right.
So my question is, how will your license differentiate the Okada rider from the dispatcher? It sounds like a duplicitous affair between the DVLA and the Regulatory Commission.
I'm not sure it does. I'm not sure it does, because there's a different law setting up the DVLA, and there is another one setting up the
I know about the law. What I'm asking is, we are discussing the efficiency of the law. Because here again, they come to you for license for what? To be able to deliver. They go to the DVLA to also get a license to be able to ride the motorbike. Now, we ask them to come to you for that license to deliver. But at the end of the day, we cannot differentiate between that rider who is licensed to deliver and a rider who is just licensed to ride. Sounds duplicitous.
You realize that the status quo we have presently makes it difficult for us to differentiate. But when they come under the ambit of the commission, there are requirements, there are standards. You cannot do delivery without a clearly marked receptacle on your motorbike. You have to have a clearly marked receptacle. Many of these guys are carrying backpacks, just backpacks. And it is in that backpack that they are carrying your food. And that is so not hygienic. As we are speaking, there is this understanding, this MOU between the commission and FDA. It is yet to be ratified though. But in that MOU, some of these things are going to be addressed. And also, the commission is thinking through to bring in on the Ghana Standards Authority, so that the receptacles that they are carrying are not coming directly from the commission. We do not provide them anyway, but then the Standards Authority will have a say in what kind of receptacles they are using. Because all these unregistered ones, they are the ones you see parking their motorbikes, even above their own height when they are seated on the motorbikes. And like I said, some are carrying food in backpacks. Some are carrying food in non-recommended receptacles. And you and I know that if food is not carried under the proper, cold chain, it might get infested and it might create health problems. Also, many of these people are hiding contraband goods, like illicit drugs. Some we have intercepted at the ports and on the highways, transporting things that they ought not to transport.
Right.
And the Postal and Courier Services Regulatory Commission has clearly stated items that cannot be transferred via courier or delivery service. If these guys are not under regulations, how do they know? So it is very, very important that all of us as Ghanaians support what the commission has set out to do, so as to bring these people under regulations. We are not out there to victimize anyone.
And indeed, Edwin, we support the implementation of the law. Again, I'll go back to the point that we are tackling the efficiency of the law, because all the things you have said are good, but the license does not deal directly with them. Now, you can license a company, and then the company would make sure that its bikes do what you're saying. And a lot of these courier companies come to you for those licenses. But individual bike riders who register on apps are also supposed to come to you. And how will getting the license implement some of these things that you have said about food safety, about general safety of the courier service?
You see, if the person isn't with you, it is difficult for you to regulate that person. It's very, very difficult to regulate that person, because the person doesn't owe any allegiance to you. But after you have brought the person under regulation, you take the person through what the tenets of the law is. Not only the law, there are regulations as well. These regulations spell out how to do what. So when they are brought under regulations and they are educated in these ways, they know what to do and what not to do. And also, the commission doesn't sit at the office just like that. We go out on monitoring exercises. It is out of these exercises that we learn how these people are carrying out their work. We learn how people are not happy with what they are doing. And then we come back. There are stakeholder engagements that we have. We address these issues, and then we iron out whatever differences there are. Then as a sector, we know that this is the way we go. As we speak, we've had so many engagements with the Narcotics Control Commission. They've addressed how they will help our people to identify what is possibly, what is likely to be a narcotic item, so that they help the Narcotics Control Authority to come
Edwin, we'll leave it here for now. That's all time will allow. Thank you so much. Edwin Begerson is PR for the Courier and Postal Services Regulatory Commission. We'll keep an eye on this story as it develops and bring you more. In the meantime, we'll take our very first break here on News Central. We'll come back with more stories. You don't go away.
You're welcome back to News Central. Now, the Adabraka District Court has resumed the trial of the lead suspect in the murder of immigration officer Stephen King Amwa. Bright Awe was remanded into police custody on August 8 for 2 weeks. Let's connect with Lord Eduasare because we understand there's another suspect who's been arrested. Lord, you've been following this. Talk to us about the latest development in this case.
are aware that the first or the lead suspect in this case has been Bright Awe. But today, just before the case goes called, we realized the police brought in another accused person by name Thomas. Now, note this, when we were bringing him to court, but in court, when the case was called, lawyer for the second accused person, but he indicated to the court that he wanted his clients to be given medical treatment at a different facility. He indicated that he came in to the court limping, his face bruised, among other matters, and was praying the court for his client to be taken to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital for medical treatment. Now, the police prosecutor indicated that he actually opposed this prayer, indicating that the lawyer for the second accused did not indicate the reason for which he was making that prayer. He indicated that they had taken the accused person twice to the hospital, but again, the lawyer was insistent, indicating that he did not want a situation where his client's evidence which will help his case will be hidden by officials from the police hospital, which, Marina, we know that every time that an accused person is sick or somewhat, they taken to the police hospital. Now, the lawyer indicated that he didn't want this to be done because he was afraid, or he feared that certain critical evidence will be hidden from the case. Now, the judge hearing the matter, Irama Damadakwa, indicated that there was no documentary evidence or records in court to indicate that, one, the accused persons were ill, and two, that they had been taken to the hospital, and that he indicated that the cases they are talking about, or the case that the lawyer is making, if it is important to him or to their case, he should make a formal application, since there was no record on the case. So in that regard, she adjourned the case and remanded the accused persons to 2 weeks for them to reappear in court on September 4, Marina.
Lord, thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague Lord Eduasare, and you can see it was emotionally charged. Some of the family members trying to physically visit their anger on some of the accused persons, and as well the media sticking cameras in the faces of said persons. But we'll move away from that, and the Police Galamsey Task Force has conducted operations in the Manso Edubia district of the Ashanti region. Now, the operation, according to the team, was intelligence-led with rapid deployment in response to actionable intelligence received. Now, during the operation, 4 excavators actively being used for illegal mining were intercepted. One of the excavators was found stuck in the mud and could not be moved. The remaining 3 excavators were successfully loaded onto low-bed trucks and transported to the base at Mansour Dubia for further investigation and necessary action. So the Galamsey fight continues, but we still wait for a lot more in terms of decisive action. But let's bring you a bit more stories coming in.
Absolutely. In a pressing appeal for government intervention, the Doma Traditional Council has revealed alarming levels of criminal activity in the Mpamiso and Kwaibibrim forests. During a recent media briefing at the Palace in Doma Ahinkro, the newly established Osajefo Forest and Timber Protection Committee disclosed that illegal logging is being conducted unabated. Here's a report by Claude Kumi Abisa.
The Osajefo Forest and Timber Protection Committee, under the authority of Domahene Osajefo Osiadeoyo Dr. Ajimabedu II, has bemoaned the escalating violence and illegal logging that had devastated Doma's forest. They describe lawlessness in the forest where armed syndicates freely harvest timber, ignoring regulations and environmental impact. Chairman of the committee, Berima Chumesi Bequin II, at a media engagement in Doma, underscored significant gaps in law enforcement and regulatory oversight by the Forestry Commission. He also highlighted the alarming socio-economic ramifications, including the abandonment of education by local children who have resorted to illegal timber trading.
Our forests have been besieged by criminal elements who wantonly harvest all species of timber, no matter their age or size. Mpemesu Forest and that of Kwayebibrim in the Doma enclave have not been spared. These forests in Doma are among the hardest hit in this regard. The least confrontation of these criminals by concessionaires and contractors are met with brute force and violence, sometimes resulting in fatalities. The dangerous social angle is the gradual breeding of future criminals, since a reasonable number of school-going children have abandoned schooling to engage in this illegal act.
In light of these findings, the committee has put forth several urgent recommendations aimed at remedying the situation, calling for immediate action from both government and local authorities to rein in the criminal activities.
With immediate effect, all makeshift motor canes and like vehicles adapted for use in carting lumber are prohibited on all roads, paths, and bushes across the Doma traditional area. Police are therefore called upon to exercise their mandate by arresting and prosecuting offenders without fear or favor. It is recommended that no permits should be issued for all chainsaw, timber, lumber, no matter the source. All illegal farming activities in the forest must cease forthwith. In this vein, chiefs of the periphery towns within the forest areas must ensure that their subjects refrain from these practices.
The Doma Traditional Council remains optimistic that with swift, decisive measures, they can restore their forests and secure a sustainable future for their communities. Claude Kumi Ebisa, TV3 News, Doma.
Oh, coming up now is By the Numbers. Here's a quick question for you. How does a national service personnel in Accra living on 715 cedis a month manage to pay a 2-year rent advance? And how does someone earning about 1,000 cedis a month afford a 500 cedi monthly rent? Now, these are the real questions tenants face, especially in the capital city, every day. On By the Numbers today, we look at the rising cost of rent as Ghana's housing deficit reaches 1.8 million units. Well, let's take a listen to Ketu North MP on this subject matter. Here's Edem Agbana.
Mr. Speaker, it is not surprising that when I conducted a survey on a social media platform called X, formerly Twitter, the rent regime was identified by most Ghanaians as their #1 challenge in the country. In major cities, particularly Accra, Kumasi, Ho, Tema, and Takrady, rent prices are skyrocketing beyond the reach of the ordinary Ghanaian. Some landlords unilaterally increase rent without justification. The lack of affordable housing forces many citizens into overcrowded and substandard living conditions. Mr. Speaker, weak enforcement of rent laws. While the law stipulates that landlords should not demand more than 6 months' rent in advance, enforcement is virtually non-existent. It is common for landlords to demand 2 to 3 years rent advance, in clear violation of the Rent Act 1963, Act 220. Many tenants are forced to comply with these arbitrary demands due to the power imbalance between landlords and tenants.
Edem Agbana there. Now, these are the lived realities of many people across the country. And again, I'll emphasize, especially here in the capital city, Accra. Moena, what are the numbers telling us? We can understand how dire the situation is, but are the numbers, matching how we feel about rent?
I think for a lot of people, these are things they can immediately relate to, because we mention more often than not what housing deficit is, and from the 2021 population and housing census, that's the last time we had a wholesale look at what our situation is, particularly on the rent front, and it stood at 1.8 million. That's the deficit we're having. In terms of the households in general, we're looking at 8.36 million, but out of that number, we're seeing some 2.9 million who are actively engaged in the business of renting and seeking places for themselves. And there's a direct correlation between the urban cities and Accra and how rent is so expensive amongst many other things. But today's analysis is seeking to, amongst many other things, paint a picture for a lot of the young persons and persons who are beginning to start out life. More often than not, we hear people say, why should I leave my father's house and go and rent, because it's not easy out there. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this analysis today. And so averagely, from what it is that we've been looking at, there's a Deloitte report as well, and then also personal experiences that have been shared is what we've pretty much summed up to try and work the numbers in terms of what rent increases look like. And we're looking at an average rent increase of 129%. On the median rates, you could get, if you're lucky, around 33% and the likes from different places, but that's what it looks like. Now, if we want to compare what the prices are for rooms and the likes, even when I saw these numbers, exactly, your reaction is the same as mine, but
I don't know which part of Accra that is.
but these are numbers that we're speaking to based on what it is that we've been looking at, where one bedroom is ranging between 300 to 650.
That is definitely not in a place like East Legon.
Exactly. And so the location in which you're in will also largely determine how much you're paying. But like I said, we're looking at data from 2021. And a lot has changed between then and now, because there's not been active numbers put in. But a lot of people, I'm sure, who are watching will be questioning this one bedroom, because that's your normal chamber and hall self-contained. And that's if you get it self-contained even, the price is a lot higher as compared to just regular chamber and hall. But on average, in the capital Accra, you find that the numbers are up there as compared to other regions, say like Ashanti region, and I have direct examples to share because I have a brother who's in the Ashanti region, and if you compare the rent prices there and here, you realize that, well, it's a world apart. But in the Ashanti region, you're finding the one bedroom apartment to be hovering around 250 to 500 cities. And if you visit the website where you find apartments to rent and all of that, this is a fair reflection of what plays out in the Ashanti region, and perhaps some will argue part of the northern region as well, and we see for 2 bedrooms as well. But in terms of the burden, which was what we're talking about the young persons and starting life, a lot of people, recently on Twitter, there was a conversation about salaries even, and whether or not salaries are good enough for a lot of these young persons. Say you're taking 1,500 a month and you're expected to pay rent for up to 2 years or perhaps 12 months. Your salary, and you're getting a chamber and hall self-contained for around that same price. How are you going to be affording that? And if it's 3,000 for a 2-bedroom, how are you affording all of that? These are some of the things that we've been taking into consideration, and we're asking the question that say a graduate earning 1,000 cedis but has been asked to pay 24,000 cedis. how much are you going to be able to how are you going to afford that is a question.
Live by plan.
But we know there's regulation. We had Edem Agbana speak to it, but it appears it's not being enforced, and there's a conversation of a new rent act amongst many other things. But let's look quickly at the vulnerable groups, which has become the center of our conversation today. So, for instance, national service persons, you're moving from a different part of the country, you're coming to the capital, Accra. If you don't have relatives here and you're supposed to be renting decent accommodation on this 715, you're going to struggle, and that's reality. Then first-time job entrants, fresh from your national service, you're getting your first paying job, you're supposed to be coughing in excess of 7,000 cedis and the likes for 1 year and all of that, low-income earners, and then large urban families. All of that and more is why a lot of people are asking for intervention. We've seen rental support from the previous administration, which was championed by Dr. Baumia, seeking to assist persons be able to rent. People criticize it because the argument is enforce the law and don't try to help people pay out of pocket.
I mean, we can do
other
both.
things.
We can do both. And Mawena, you talked about more when it comes to the vulnerable groups. I think a lot of the time, what we don't realize is how much the purchasing power of the working class is being eroded by some of these things. Because you're told, listen, your rent should not go above 1/3 of your salary, but it's not possible.
It doesn't happen here.
It is not reality for a lot of working class people who are spending almost half, maybe even more of their monthly salaries.
No, people are using their entire monthly salaries to pay
on rent, right? So we need to put in the fact that the working class is suffering a lot when it comes to rent.
Absolutely.
And then also, Mawena, we have to point out that data collection is the reason we have not been able to deal with this problem.
A fair point actually, because we're looking at 2021 data amongst many other things. But anyways,
well,
that's it.
It's time for us to go.
Yeah, I don't know if we wrap up by
No, we're done.
That's it from us here.
We're done.
This week here on News Central, I am Mawena.
And I am Kemeni Amano. Bye-bye.